Hello everyone, welcome back to Great Broadway Fan's YouTube channel. I'm Luke, and today I'm bringing you two very special videos. As 2015 comes to a close, it is time to reflect. It is the end of the year, and I hope you all had an amazing holiday season. I sure had an awesome Christmas. I'll show you just a couple of things that I received. As you know, or as you may not know, I love candles. So I got these awesome candles here, and then I kind of splurged, and since I am so obsessed with Star Wars, I did get this Lego of Rey and her speeder, and I'm going to go see Star Wars again on the 30th of December. So, as I said, 2015 is coming to a close, and upon reflection, we have had so many good movies come out this year, and I decided to do a top 15 favorite movies of 2015. But upon looking at the list, which I've got right here, let me move these candles out of the way. I've got my list right here, and I saw a grand total of 25 movies that were released in 2015. So I decided, well, I'll do a top 15 favorite and then a top 10 least favorite. I would never call these movies the worst of 2015 because they weren't. I mean, none of these movies that are on this list are unwatchable, but they just weren't my favorites. And I'm trying to be nice as possible, but some of these movies are just good but not great. And then, of course, the top three, I really took angst against the top three movies because they just made me upset. And so the way that this list is structured, I'm going to do my top 10 least favorite first because I want to get the negativity out of the way and done. And then in the next video that I will post immediately after this one will be my top 15 favorite movies, and we'll have some positivity in the atmosphere. Okay, so this list is basically cobbled together of how much these movies pissed me off or made me sad or just disappointed me in general or made me want to flip every table in San Diego. So, without further ado, my top 10 least favorite movies of 2015. Here's hoping I don't piss anyone off. All right. I've got my notes here, so let's get started. Number 10, Big Eyes. Now, originally, Big Eyes was going to be on the top 15 favorites list, but it had to be bumped down because of a documentary that I saw that was really, really incredible and blew me away. So the documentary is on the top 15 favorites, and Big Eyes, unfortunately, had to be bumped off of the list. But that's why it's at number 10, because I actually really loved this movie. For those of you who don't know, it is a movie based on a true story, directed by Tim Burton, starring Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz. And Amy Adams plays Margaret Keane, who did the Big-Eyed Children in the 1950s and 60s. And basically the premise of the movie and her story is that her second husband, Walter, stole credit for all of her art. And it was really incredible to watch this movie. And I saw it in January when it had come out. I saw it with my grandmother. We went to go see a matinee, and there were literally 7 people, including ourselves, in the theater. I counted. I'm like, wow, this movie is not getting a lot of traction. But Amy Adams won the Golden Globe for Best Actress for this movie. She was well deserving of it, I thought. The only big glaring problem that I do have with the movie is that Christoph Waltz, while trying to be a very clear and well-defined antagonist for Amy Adams' Margaret Keane, his Walter comes across as really like a caricature versus an actual character. He's very cartoonish and at times unbelievable, and then at times so scary that he literally just flips a switch and is a completely different person. And it kind of was a little bit all over the place for me. But like I said, it's only at number 10 because I liked the movie, even though I have only a few problems with it. Okay, number 9 is Spy. I really love Melissa McCarthy, and I've pretty much loved everything that she's been in so far. And one of my most anticipated movies of 2016 is the all-female Ghostbusters reboot starring her and then the ladies of Saturday Night Live. And Spy was a good movie. I thought it was funny, it was action-packed, but the thing that was kind of disappointing about the movie was there is this one character, and it's been so long since I've seen it, and I can't remember who the actor's name was. I'll put it right here. But there's so much vulgarity and profanity in this movie, especially from this gentleman's character, that the movie almost at times becomes unwatchable. You're so uncomfortable physically watching this movie because of all of the profanity and because of all the vulgarity. And I sometimes don't have a problem with it if it's just like sprinkled in there, but if it's like right in front of your face and it keeps coming up like word vomit, basically, the movie becomes slightly unenjoyable. So that was my only grievance against Spy. But like I said, still love Melissa McCarthy. Okay, number 8 is The Duff. The reason why I put this movie on this list is because even though I thought it was very, very good, it's unfortunately a very forgetful film. This movie is very easily forgetful because unlike Mean Girls and Easy A, which are two of my favorite teen comedies that I've ever seen, this movie really doesn't have anything noteworthy that stays in the back of your mind months after you watch it. I was making this list and I actually looked at a spreadsheet of all the movies released in 2015, and I was surprised that I almost forgot about The Duff, and then I realized, well, it's no wonder because the movie is kind of forgetful. I mean, the performances are great, but just overall the movie is just it's like your happy-go-lucky, like, teen comedy with a dash of romance in there and some drama, of course, but it was an okay film. I mean, I didn't love it. I didn't run out and buy it on DVD. But if you're looking for another teen movie to add to your collection, or you're looking for a movie to watch on a rainy afternoon, The Duff, I would recommend it. But once again, not my ultimate favorite. Okay, number 7 is Lucky Stiff. Now, a lot of you have probably never heard of this film, and there's a good reason behind it, because it was an independent film adaptation of an off-Broadway musical of the same name. And I won't give too much away, but basically the premise is that you have a penniless shoemaker named Harry Witherspoon who finds out that his American uncle, who he's never met, has died and has left him $6 million in his will. But the catch is, in order to inherit the money, Harry has to take the embalmed corpse of his uncle, which is in a wheelchair, on a vacation to Monte Carlo. And if he doesn't uphold all of the criteria that this list has been made of everything that he has to do with the corpse, if Harry doesn't uphold his end of the bargain, all of the money goes to charity. Unfortunately, the money has been embezzled by the uncle's girlfriend who shot him, and it turns into a raucous screwball comedy. And it was very, very funny, but being a musical, the score was absolutely so easily forgetful. I mean, the cast was great. You have Jason Alexander, Nikki M. James, Kate Shindle. Great cast overall. It's nice to see some Broadway talent in a movie, but the music is just so easily forgetful that I was just like, eh? And there's no talk of release on DVD, and I think that that's really unfortunate because I'd love to have it in my collection, but I just kind of thought it was a little bit on the boring side. And I'm really sad to say that about a movie musical. Number 6, Jurassic World. I know. It's like I said, I'm trying not to piss anybody off, but I avoided watching this movie because I don't know if you know this about me, but I am not the type of person that likes big, loud action films, especially seeing them in theaters. I had no desire to see Jurassic World in theaters because I knew it was going to be loud, it was going to be big, and I just don't like those movies that keep you on the edge of your seat and then scare you with like loud noises and everything. That's just not what I do. So, but my brother and my mom went to go see it and they loved it, and so I bought it for my brother for Christmas, and literally at the end of the night on Christmas Day, we watched Jurassic World, and we watched it at home in the comfort of my own home. And I have to say, it does have its moments, but I am just not a fan of the Jurassic Park franchise. And definitely some standout performances, especially with Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard. But overall, I thought that the movie was just mediocre. Like, I thought that some of the special effects scenes were really, really good, but it had way too many characters. I thought the screenplay was really clunky and fell flat on its face in a few times. And some of the CGI dinosaurs look so fake that it almost takes you out of the movie. And so that's why it's on this list for my top 5, or top 10, least favorite movies of the year. Okay, number 5 is Mordecai. Now, this is a first for me. I rented this movie when it came out on Netflix, on DVD. I rented it. It came in the mail. And I did something with this movie that I have never done before in another film. I actually was so bored with this movie that I turned it off about 20 to 30 minutes into the movie and put it back in the Netflix sleeve and sent it back and gave it a 1-star rating. This movie was so boring and so dull. And as a person who is a writer, I know how the structure of a cinematic narrative works. You have to have the exposition to start the movie, and then your inciting incident, and then you have your rising action to keep your audience engaged. 30 minutes in, and I'm bored out of my mind, scrolling through my phone, and barely even watching this movie. I mean, you failed. I'm sorry to say that. And I love Johnny Depp and Gwyneth Paltrow, but this movie was so dull, it was so boring, that I couldn't actually even sit through it. So, I'm sorry to have to say that. Okay, number 4 is Pixels. Now, I have a very interesting history with this movie. I actually had the pleasure of going to a press screening. My mother and I, she won tickets, and so we got to go to a press screening for Pixels. We had the general public and the press were all there. It was in 3D, and we were laughing our butts off in the theater, and I thought it was really funny. But then, upon the second viewing, when I watched it at home, I rented it on Apple TV and I watched it, that's when it suddenly hit me, oh, I see what all the problems are with this movie. The video game nostalgia-esque part of this movie is very charming, but it's just, this movie, you'd have to be a die-hard Adam Sandler fan to enjoy this. And there's some great performances, standout cast members, I will say, Peter Dinklage and Josh Gad. But overall, the movie's kind of a slog to get through, and I'm really sorry to say that because I enjoyed it in the theater, but I think it also helped with the audience there laughing along with the jokes. When it was just me watching it at home, I kind of wasn't laughing, and I noticed all the glaring problems regarding this movie. Okay, now we've reached the top 3, and these are the movies that I would classify as the worst of 2015 that I saw. And it's really sad because number 3 on this list is a sequel to a movie that I really, really enjoyed. Number 2 on this list comes from a film studio that for me has never made a bad movie until this one. And then number 1 is a spin-off movie of a more successful franchise, and it just goes to show you how vital that franchise is and how the spin-off movie really didn't work. So this is the top 3, and number 3 on this list Pitch Perfect 2. All right. Fangirls to the left. Let's get this over with. I went into this movie with such high expectations, and they were brought so low. This movie, and I saw it with my mother, and she agreed with me. This movie was not as good, nor was it as exciting as the first Pitch Perfect. And I was trying to rack my brain around what was it that made this movie unenjoyable. And then it hit me when I rewatched the first Pitch Perfect after I got home. Anna Kendrick is the reason that Pitch Perfect 1 worked so well. She was salty and sassy with that character, and she carried that movie and made that movie what it is. And yes, Rebel Wilson is hilarious in her part of Fat Amy, but Anna Kendrick's Becca is the reason why that movie worked so well. And I felt that the second movie didn't have enough Anna Kendrick. It had more of everything else, but not more of what I wanted to see and what I felt made the first Pitch Perfect work so well. And clearly, Pitch Perfect 2 did better at the box office, and that's how franchises are supposed to work. And they are coming out with a Pitch Perfect 3. But Pitch Perfect 2 was boring, it was dull, it fell flat in some areas, and I just felt that it couldn't hold my interest as well as the first one did. And I wish that the second movie was better. I just wish it was better. The first Pitch Perfect is better than the sequel. And isn't that the unfortunate statement that is made with most franchises, where sequels are never as good as the original? Well, that's the case with Pitch Perfect 2. All right, number 2 on this list is The Good Dinosaur. I love Pixar. I grew up with Pixar. I was born in 94, and I have pretty much seen every single Pixar movie that they have ever made, with the exception of Monsters University. I just completely missed that one. But every single Pixar film that has been made has been a winner in my book. I believe that they have never made a bad movie until The Good Dinosaur. And here's my biggest problem with this movie. The concept for this film is genius. The universe that they have set up is that the asteroid that was supposed to kill the dinosaurs misses planet Earth, and dinosaurs do not become extinct. So millions of years later, dinosaurs are now in the same world as humans. That concept alone is genius. But they didn't do anything with it. They set it in the Stone Age with cavemen who do not speak English, let alone cannot stand on their own 2 feet. And the movie, it just keeps going. And I'm just like, what? No. There's so much more that you could have done with this concept. You could have set the movie in the present day. How would we, as a human race and as a society, have evolved with these giant creatures roaming around the earth? Would we have put them in cages? Would we have hunted them for sport? Or would we have let them alone? Make a kids-friendly Jurassic Park. That's what The Good Dinosaur could have and should have been. But they just did the bare minimum. And Pixar, unfortunately, is becoming their own cliche. I defy anybody to watch a Pixar movie and not find these 3 attributes that I have found in every single Pixar film. 1, stunning computer animation. 2, well-written and well-developed characters that grow and progress throughout the course of the plot. And 3, emotional manipulation. Every single Pixar movie has at least one of those 3 attributes, if not all 3. And The Good Dinosaur has all 3 of those. But I felt that the characters, although well-developed, and especially Arlo, the green dinosaur, he grows throughout the course of the narrative. And I do think that the moral of the story about not letting fear run your life is good, but I also felt that the emotional manipulation in this movie was so shoehorned in. And literally, like, picture the emotional manipulation as a bucket of paint just thrown in your face twice. It's like, hey, we have this perfect moment. Let's kill off this character. It'll make the audience cry. Oh, we're coming to the end of the movie. Let's make the audience cry again. And I felt that there was emotional manipulation in this movie, but it wasn't organic coming out of the plot. I left the theater just thinking to myself, that movie could have been so much more than what it was. And it's really sad that this movie actually was hauled in at the last minute, and the entire voice cast was fired, and the script was completely rewritten. So my question is, what was in that original version that's different about this one? Because this movie clearly is not working. And if The Good Dinosaur ends up winning the Golden Globe or the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, I will flip every single table in San Diego, because there's so many better animated films that came out this year that are more deserving of the top prizes in Hollywood. And finally, my number one least favorite movie of 2015, Minions. Man, this movie was a disappointment. I went into the theater with my expectations way up here, and the payoff was about here. And it just goes to show you how important Gru is to the Despicable Me franchise. Gru doesn't need the Minions. The Minions need Gru. Because this movie, like The Good Dinosaur, had a great concept, and the trailers for this movie playing over and over and over completely sold me on this film. But actually sitting in the theater and watching this movie for an hour and a half, and these yellow blobs that are adorable, don't get me wrong, they are adorable, they just can't hold their own movie. They can't. They're good for being side characters in the Despicable Me movies, and they're good for their 8-minute short films that are found on the DVDs, but they cannot hold their own film, in my opinion. I was just so bored. I was so bored throughout this movie. And really, the only attribute that I enjoyed was Sandra Bullock as Scarlet Overkill. I thought that Minions was just dull. It had a flimsy plot, and I was bored. What more can I say? I'm sorry. This is my list. I'm really, really sorry if I made anybody mad. If you disagree with me, leave down in the comments below what's wrong with me, and I'm sorry. But next time, the next video that I'm going to post will be positivity and happiness and sunshine, I promise. It'll be my top 15 favorite movies of the year. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. Be sure to give it a big thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down and just tell me what's wrong. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. You can follow me on all 3 of my social media websites, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. Links to those are in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.